and welcome to the August 2024 OSBA Forum. I'm Kathy McFarland with Mark Bobo, and we are excited to connect with educational leaders from throughout Ohio and bring these conversations to our members.
And today we're so excited to have our friend and colleague, Emily Douglas-McNab, with us here today. She's going to talk to us about addressing a particularly critical issue, recruiting and retaining staff within our school districts. Emily, always good to see you.
Great to see you too.
Thanks for being with us here today. So just tell our audience about yourself and particularly your role in public education.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm Emily Douglas-McNab. I am one of the co-founders of the Experience Management Institute, which is a woman-owned business. And we work with school districts all over the country and do consulting on a lot of different topics, strategy, HR. We have a lot of conversations with boards and district leaders on things like recruitment and retention. But yeah, we spend a lot of our time in this space and learning about great practices and how districts can improve.
Yeah, I learned about you the first time was through your relationship with Toledo Public Schools.
Toledo Public Schools
is
one of our largest clients, and we've worked with them for a long time on strategic planning and lots of HR and process improvement.
Awesome.
So I think what our members really would like to hear about and understand is the impact that staff, particularly teachers, have on the success of students and their outcomes.
So that's a great question, and if you were to just make it like a simple answer, and we think about what a school day looks like, students spend the majority of their day in a classroom with a classroom teacher, right? Whether that is a full-time person or a substitute or a long-term sub, whatever that looks like. So what we know is that when they spend 80 to 90% of their time with a classroom teacher, that the classroom teacher has the most effect on their learning, right? The largest effect. Well, if you were to get really nerdy and look at research between, 2002 to 2017, 2019, and talk about value-added data and who grows kids, the research shows the exact same thing. So we see that they have a huge effect. And unfortunately right now what we know is there are shortages of educators all over the country, and we have lots of open classrooms that don't have a full-time teacher in them.
Yeah, you mentioned research. There's also a lot of research about the importance of the principal on student outcomes, and so how integral they are a part of a student's experience.
Yeah, and if they're an instructional leader, right, if that's what we talk about them being as an instructional leader, I would also argue that being the leader of a building, you're also a staff, your job is to manage staff and to ensure that they're in the right frame of mind to be in a classroom every day. But we know that they have, 5 to 10%, if you look at, again, value-added data, that research looks like. But yeah.
So when you look at Ohio's public education overall, what opportunities, we don't say challenges, what opportunities do we see regarding building a strong district staff?
So what we see are lots of districts who still have lots of openings. And when we talk with districts, regardless of the type of district or the size, what we know is that the way that we sometimes approach recruiting or hiring, that there are some things that could possibly be improved. And a lot of it comes with just the way that the world has changed around technology and expectations of staff. And we don't, in most of the business-sided world, we don't expect hiring to take 3 and 4 months. We expect to find information on websites about what jobs look like. And sometimes districts, because they just don't have the staff, it's not like it's done maliciously. They're just not able to communicate sometimes what information people are looking to find for a position. So we see all these openings and not a lot of information communicated, and then we end up with shortages in open classrooms, buildings and school districts that have no bus drivers, so they can't get kids to school or on time. So it's just kind of a compounding situation.
In the 90s, when I was looking for a teaching job, it was so competitive, right? It was, I hope I get this teaching job. And now I feel like that's changed. Do you feel like the market has changed? And what does Experience Management Institute do to help members and districts make sure that we get quality adults in front of our students? Because like we established, they are such an important part of a child's journey.
Yes.
So how do you encourage districts to get great people in front of our kids?
So I think the first is changing how we think about things. A lot of people still think we live in that market, right? So we're a great place to work. Everyone wants to work here. There are districts that are completely in that situation. But so what we know is, one, we have maybe a misalignment of understanding of where the market is at.
Yeah.
So we've got less people going into education, right? So we see higher ed enrollment dramatically down from where it was 15 and 20 years ago when it comes to preparing teachers or people becoming building leaders. And then on the other side, we see growing district size, right? So they need more staff. So we see kind of this two different directions. And then when you add on top of it that we just don't think about recruitment like maybe other industries do.
Yeah, right.
We kind of set up ourselves for maybe where we're at right now. So what we do with districts is we talk to board members and say things like, let's talk about the current realities of where the world's at. Like we see shortages in we see less people going in to education in higher ed. We see more positions. We see more people needing more specialty. You know, if you're going to teach math, you're more likely to be a better math teacher if you've got real math background.
Yes, that's also in the research.
That's also from the research, or any of this. Yeah, research nerds. Yeah, or STEM, or any of those fields.
Right.
But a lot of those people are not here. So let's talk about what do we need to do to think of ourselves as we would love for you to join us, not you're lucky to be here. It's a very different mentality and mindset.
Okay. So Emily, we always like to have our members have some takeaways.
Yes.
So I wanted you to talk about some strategies
Yes.
that districts can think about implementing.
Okay.
And also I'd like you to embed in that answer, how do our districts attract diverse candidates to meet our diverse student population? So kind of two-part questions there. What are some takeaways strategies they can use that you know work because you've seen it work?
Yes.
And then how do we get those teachers and staff in front of our students so that our students can see themselves in them?
So if I had to pick a couple big things just right off the bat. So one is when we think about a district strategy and their strategic plan, right? Board members have a big role in that. If that strategy and that strategic plan don't involve anything around staff, which we see lots of strategic plans not include staff or any sort of staffing metrics or conversations, that's a problem. So the first thing is it needs to be a strategic priority from day one, both of the board and of the leadership team. So if the leadership team doesn't think that's important, the board needs to push on the leadership team to say, hey, help us understand why you don't think it's a priority because we think it should be.
So you feel like in their strategic plan, it should be reflected that recruitment, retention, all of that should be baked into that strategitic plan.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if it's not, that's a problem. Especially, and I always tell people this, if you tell me it's recruitment season, and you've heard me say this before, and you have open positions, every day is recruitment season. It's not February, it's not March, it's not April.
It's not July 11th or whatever that,
or
before July 10th or whatever that magic date is.
We have missed the boat. We need to be thinking about that from the beginning.
All the time.
And that needs to be literally a strategic conversation and priority.
Do you feel like that boards and superintendents do a good job of succession planning?
No.
Right? Like to take a look and say, hey, a lot of our teachers in the next 3, 5, 7, and 10 years are no longer, possibly could not be in the classroom. Do you feel like they're doing that type of thinking?
Here's what I would tell you. I think because there's so many things going on in school districts.
Yes, there is.
And we see policy changes and licensure changes, and I don't care what state you're talking about. It doesn't matter. Boards change, priorities change, we change the testing. There's just so many things to focus on. I can tell you from the people that we work with, the world is constantly on fire. So when you have gotten yourself into a mentality where all you do every day is fight fires because, I mean, we're talking children's lives, right? It's very important. That when you get to that place where that's all you have time for, we don't have time to be proactive and get to the place where we do succession planning. We always talk about succession planning as being like a cherry on the top. Most people never get to a full constructed ice cream or cake or whatever you want to say, let alone to do that cherry on top.
And that's why it's important to be in your strategic plan, right? If it's there and you're truly staying true to your strategic plan and you bake it in there, then it's going to get done. So, okay, so strategic plan.
Number one. I think number two, what districts could do to substantially make a difference in some of their recruiting is we see lots of organizations that their websites, and I know this sounds like one of those weird things, you're like a website. When we know that 95% of Americans, regardless of socioeconomic status, have access to a cell phone, and they're on the internet and have access via a mobile device, if your website is not where it needs to be, that's a problem.
And so tell us what it needs to be looks like.
So what does it need to be? It needs to at least, and I always tell people this, and we tell board members this all the time, go to your website front page. If you don't blatantly see a button on the front page that says job opportunities, work for us, work with us, I don't care what it says. If it's not a click away from seeing open positions, it's a problem. Nobody's going to dig and look for that, and they'll just move. They'll just go to the next organization. And we know that whichever, Gen Z, go down the line, alphas, everybody expects to have a mobile-friendly website where that information is, where you can find things. And if it's not there or somebody has to work for it, they're not.
Yeah.
And we can tell ourselves, oh, well, it's only 4 clicks or 5. That's too many, just too many.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
But it's a reality.
It is
yeah.
reality.
It is
It is reality. I think in addition to that, which builds on that though, is information about open positions. A lot of times is hidden or not accessible and friendly. One of the things we see lots of districts do, and I told people this is one of those things that makes me insane. We don't put information on job postings about how much jobs make.
Oh.
Pay.
Okay.
Right? In the last 10 years, we see states and municipalities that have changed laws on that say you have to. City of Columbus, if you're within the city of Columbus in Ohio, city of Cincinnati, city of Toledo. There are lots of places where there may not be a state law, but cities have said, if you're within our jurisdiction, you have to put that on job posting. Here's what we know, and this comes to the diversity piece of this too. When we are open and transparent with communications around pay, pay is more equitable, and pay is more equitable, we are able to hire more diverse candidates. So by the nature of hiding that, because you may not have a system, or you don't feel comfortable with it, or you don't know, you just don't even know, we automatically are turning away possibly diverse candidates. The research on it from business, from Europe, from the United States is incredible on that.
I thought most districts had, it was told, here's where you are, and every year just, right? There's no necessarily negotiation, or there's usually a set.
For a teacher schedule, right? So you'll see that, but even sometimes they'll post teaching positions, and you have to go, if you didn't know how to go find that contract, it's not there, let alone go to assistant principals, and then anybody
that's
else.
where you can be a little bit more. Okay. Interesting.
I'm hearing all these strategies, but my mind is going to those hard to fill positions, right? Every day you see, we don't have enough bus drivers, we don't have enough classified staff. Can you share with us some innovative recruitment strategies, particular to those hard to fill positions?
Yeah, and I think, we'd mentioned Toledo as one of our clients. They're a great example of this. If you asked me 10 years ago, what's the hardest position to fill? I would have said probably higher level math, science in a classroom, STEM positions in special ed, right? That's going to be the answer. It's not actually the hardest to fill position. In most school districts, it's bus drivers. We can't find bus drivers. And so Toledo, I don't know, probably in 2020 was like, oh my gosh, we're short bus drivers. So what they did was they looked at their contract and how to fill those positions. And then we started to play with some really innovative recruitment things, right? Again, back to the website and the phone use and social media. Let's talk social media. We know people are looking for positions on social media, period. Whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, we can even throw TikTok in there too if we want, regardless of your views on all that. But when you're absent on those platforms, people just move on to somewhere else where there is information. So what we found was if there was content created, which doesn't have to be professionally shot, in fact, that doesn't even get as much many clicks. We're talking real content shot from a phone, that people are going to respond to that. So TPS went through a whole initiative where they went and interviewed bus drivers. They interviewed people in different positions across the district and then started to put those videos about why do you love your job? Why do you love this job? And they put them on social media, and it was like wildfire, right? So people were sharing those videos, people were clicking that content because that's what they want to know, that's what they want to see. And a lot of times we talk about education getting a bad rap and all the things that are going on. but we don't always then take the time to push out the really great, positive, amazing content.
Yeah. So, let's deal with that a little bit more. How, as a school district, how do I get over that fear or trepidation of being out there on a social media in that way? You know, website I can kind of control. Here's what we are. Here's what we do.
Yep.
When I go the social media route, it's more of a two-way communication. I can't totally control the narrative. How do I work through that as a school district?
Great question. So if you were to look at a business, right, and we got lots of school board members who work for businesses, right, and they don't work in the ed space necessarily, but what do? And they're Wendy's has an amazing social media. Now they have a group of people who do this, but when people post contents, they post comments that are maybe not positive, they respond. So there's a whole way that gets handled, right? So we don't hide it, we respond in what we deem as the appropriate way. When it comes to a school district, when everybody again is in that firefighting mode all the time and we don't have time, I mean, you see the majority of districts in Ohio are small and have a superintendent and a treasurer and a very small leadership team. What we see districts all over the country doing is taking a teacher who has a knack for social media that we trust, giving them a stipend and saying, hey, will you make the content, we'll post it. So the district is still in control of what gets posted where and how, but the teachers make the content.
That's good.
How cool, right?
Yeah.
So we've got maybe teachers who even have students or kids who are going to athletic events, taking photos and sharing things. Teachers, when the kids get off the bus, saying to the bus driver, hey, how was your day? And the bus driver saying, I love my job. I mean, it's 10 seconds. It doesn't have to be some magnificent
And you don't have to have a specific person, that's all they do all day long.
No,
you can utilize your current team members. That's awesome.
And there are always going to be teachers who are great at content, period.
Well,
and
they're around it, they live in it.
Yeah,
right?
they live every day.
in the content.
And you see more and more of those people actually who even have their own social media following. I mean, there's some teachers and principals right now out there in the country who have millions and millions of followers. So use those people and have them help you. Why not?
Yeah.
So when school districts are looking at all of these things, can you share with us how can we use data analytics to kind of improve our recruitment and retention strategies? How best can we put those in there to make a difference?
When people are busy, the data piece falls to the side pretty quick, right? So, but with social media, all those platforms automatically have analytics and reporting built into them. So you're looking at things like when we post videos on Facebook or we post a job posting on Facebook, what kind of stuff gets clicks, right? So we noticed in TPS when we looked at their data, when we just posted like a flyer on social media, on Facebook or anything that says work for TPS, drive a bus, very few clicks. But that's what you see a lot of people have time for is they just create a flyer, they put a QR code on there or whatever, and they don't get a lot of clicks. Those videos, pictures of students, again, making an impact. People love ed because they want to make an impact. So connect it. When we post that stuff gets all kinds of clicks. And it's hard from a community perspective. You're going to write on the bus drivers in a response to one of the greatest people that people love in the community, who's maybe a coach forever, and now they're a bus driver. We're going to write negative comments on a video that's positive, that shows we love students. No, they're not. You may on random occasion, but more than likely not. So that fear doesn't always have to be there if the content's positive and it's done in a great way. But that metric piece is a great way, from a social media standpoint, it's a great way to look at just what works and what doesn't on your website. Right? You can go, and a lot of times websites on the back end have that same type of information. How many people visit our website and how many pages do they actually go to? And how long do they spend on our website? If it's like 2 seconds, you probably have some website content things. But yeah, there's some of that's built in.
It's really adjusting to the consumer, right? The consumer of information has changed. They're inundated with pictures, stories, emotions, and we can't continue to put the help wanted sign on the wall and think that we're going to attract those such integral people that we need for our kiddos. So that's fascinating.
I'd have one additional question.
Something
about the teacher that's dealing with burnout right now. How as an administrator, leadership team, how do we work with that teacher and or staff member that feels burned out? Now, granted, it's the beginning of the year, so everybody's pretty jubilant right now.
We hope.
Right? But you know, when
Once we
the
get
dog,
past homecoming,
yeah,
and we get to that, yeah.
trying to get to vacation. But no,
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah.
the burnout. How do we deal with that?
So there are a lot of people right now studying teacher burnout and having a lot of conversations around wellness, right? And what we have to understand is that in any job, in any industry, that kind of thing happens, right? We've seen that with doctors and nurses
Healthcare,
after
yeah.
COVID, right?
Yep.
So what we have to do is if the building leader is in a position to have a really personal connection with that person, truthfully, if you look at the research, that connection is the most important thing,
Yes.
right? We know people are more than likely to leave their job because of the quality of their boss, right? That is the number one thing, and all kinds of research that shows the quality of your boss is more important than your doctor because they're more in charge of your mental health and your physical health than anything. So we're talking building leaders, building authentic relationships with people, and genuinely caring. I mean, if you listen to teachers talk about why they stay in education, it's things like, I had a principal who genuinely cared about me as a person.
Right.
And when I struggled and I admitted that I needed help, I mean, just think about this. It's like your kids. When I struggled and I admitted I needed help, they were willing to help me, not I was then
Punitively, yeah.
corrected or told
Yeah.
I was wrong or
Yeah.
how dare I do that. And so that's a really important,
Yeah.
the relationship piece there is important. And we don't teach that in a principal program.
So important.
Yeah.
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 But I always wonder, principals maybe take care of teachers. Who takes care of the principals? Who takes care of the superintendent, right? It's like there's got to be an ecosystem that we all take care of one another.
Correct. Correct.
But normalizing and being able to say, I'm struggling right now, I'm drowning, and it's not going to show up in my mid-year evaluation,
Yeah.
takes trust, and it's all about those
Huge.
relationships.
Huge.
So
Yeah.
in my notes, before we wrap up here, I have how important it is to have staffing, that piece in your strategic plan.
Yes.
That's one.
Yep.
How important that website is, and
Yep.
that if I get on a website, there should be something on that homepage, front page, that I click and I can go and find job opportunities. And
Yeah.
once I go to that place, there should be information about that position.
Correct.
And you encourage people, put the darn salary range on there
put it
at
on
least.
Yeah, put it on there. The other thing that's helpful in that too, though, and we always tell people this, is use real photos of the people who work in your district.
Not the
stock photos?
No,
the stock photos.
no, not the stock photos. And trust me, I've been in too many conversations with communications experts to say, from districts, directors, or whatever their title is, to be like, look, this, they'll say, that makes me very nervous to use real photos of our real people. And I'm like, look, I understand that. But again, what research shows us is when you're highlighting real people in your organization, you're going to get more clicks, you're going to get all of that. And if you're mindful of the people that you're including, and it's not just teachers, but it's from all the different positions, food service staff, custodians, more than just the superintendent, like other people who work in central office. And then we're also mindful of the diversity aspect. We know that you're going to get, people are going to say, oh, people like me work there. I want to work there too. So, I mean, even those little things, and districts have so many photos in different places, but we just don't use them all the time because it's hard.
And there is a piece of research nerd, that says that people can sit, and if you give them a stock photo and a real photo, they know right away which one is this, right?
Yeah.
And that it reflects the fact that they feel that when they see a genuine picture, there's, once again, that building of trust, and not this, this is something that is a stock photo.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, we have districts who had used stock photos for van wraps and billboards, and the conversation wasn't, oh, I want to work there, right? It's, who is that person on that billboard?
Is she in our building?
Yeah, is she in our building?
I've never seen her.
Yeah, that person has on a different uniform than I wear. Like, when do I get that uniform? And so it's just, the intent is good, but it's a miss, unfortunately, because we're not getting what we want, which is people to go to a hiring website or go learn more about our organization, why we're amazing, and why we love kids. So it's a lot of money spent for a little bit of a misdirection.
And I'll tell you what, people say they hate pictures, but gosh darn it, they love to see themselves. I don't care what they say. I don't care. They're always like, oh my gosh, and then they share it. Mom,
they do.
Right?
Yes. And that's actually one of the best ways to recruit people. I mean, referrals is still, in any industry, the number one way to recruit people.
Yes, absolutely.
Is referrals. And when your photo's up, your story's up, people are sending that to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Emily, this has been great. I do want to give you an opportunity.
Yes.
And one more thing is to use your social media. That was in my notes
media,
also.
Important.
One thing that you would like to leave our audience with, and you can even do 2 or 3 if you'd like.
Okay.
What would you like to leave our audience with?
I would say, from a board member standpoint, that board members have to put themselves in a situation where they're asking questions about a lot of this recruitment and retention work. Again, when people are busy, it becomes not always front burner, and it's not directly student related, right? So it's a step or 2 off of students, which means, again,
But it's not when you can't fill those classrooms,
correct.
right?
Well, that's
better.
hopefully that's a conversation. But if we really care about students, we need people in classrooms, we need people in buildings, we need them to be able to get to school in the frame of mind to be able to learn.
Yes.
So the hiring of those people is deadly important.
Yes.
So it needs to be, we see too many strategic plans where that is not a priority, and if it's not there, then where are we talking about it? And how are we talking about it? And when are we talking about it? And the answer is we're not.
Yeah.
So, and it's
Until
not going
we
to
have
solve
to.
itself.
Until we say, oh my gosh, we don't have what are we going to do?
Until it's an emergency and it's a fire.
Yes.
And then we handle that fire for today, but not a forward-thinking looking solution. Yeah.
Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We so appreciate your partnership and the great work you're doing within our districts, and we're just really appreciative. You gave us tangible things to work on, and we can walk away putting that into our district. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
And thank you to our membership for your leadership and dedication to your community. If there's any way that our OSBA team can help you, please contact us. We are here as a resource to you. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for being here at the OSBA Forum.